Hello and welcome to Database Management Systems. In this video, I'm going to give you a brief introduction about PLSQL, why we need to use it, what are the advantages of using PLSQL, and at the same time, just a few programs, very simple programs in PLSQL and how to implement them in Oracle SQL Plus. So let's begin. What is PLSQL? To understand this, first you need to understand that any website you visit today or any application you visit today contains some layers of technologies. So they are all stacked up. And at the topmost level, you have the presentation layer. This layer is the one that actually gives you the look of the website and the app, and you have all the buttons that you can use and you can interact with the website or the app very easily. And the bottommost layer or bottommost part of the stack is the hardware and the code, the machine code that actually interacts with the hardware. So that is the bottommost part of the software technology. Now, somewhere in the middle of this stack is where you will find a database. And this is the database that stores all the data necessary for the website or the app, and then you can use that data as and when you require. So this is the middlemost layer. So it's right between the top layer that shows you all the interaction with the website and the app, and it is and the other bottommost layer, which tells you that how the machine code actually works and interacts with your hardware in order to make it work. And in between this, you have the database. And for many years now, SQL or SQL or structured query language, whatever you wish to call it, has been a very dominant technology whenever it comes to working with databases. SQL is a very powerful language, and all types of relational databases use the structured query language. And it allows you to manipulate your data, it allows you to insert data inside, it allows you to update data once it is inserted and created. And you can create lots of tables and relationships among these tables, and all these things together make SQL very valuable for relational database, which comes right in the middle of the stack. And this is a very important programming language, but it's a declarative language, and it does not necessarily provide you a construct or any of the programming constructs that you learn in normal programming languages. For example, when you study C language or you study Python or you study Java, and you see all these constructs, branches and loops and everything, and those things are not available to you in SQL. So to be able to use SQL properly, to implement the business logic of SQL, there is a companion language that is provided to SQL. It is sort of an extension of SQL. It's not exactly a language by itself. It is something that extends SQL and provides you all those procedural language constructs. For example, if you're looking for branching, and if you're looking for loops and stuff like that, then all these things are provided to you by PLSQL. PLSQL stands for Procedural Language Structured Query Language, or Procedural Language SQL. So, like I said, it allows you to use all types of branching and loops and everything that you would normally use in another programming language. But you might ask the question, why PLSQL? Because whatever you can do with PLSQL, you can definitely do it with some other programming language, right? For example, you don't need to learn PLSQL. You might just go on and learn Python and use SQL with Python. But there are several advantages if you use PLSQL, because PLSQL actually divides your code into blocks. And then these blocks, they complement and extend the reach of SQL. And let's look at some of the advantages of using PL/SQL. The first advantage of using PL/SQL is it is very tightly integrated with SQL. So for example, if you are using PL/SQL, then you would be using exactly the same kinds of data types that you would be using with SQL. So whatever data types you are using, like number and variable character, all these data types are also used in PL/SQL, and that's why it is very tightly integrated with SQL. So it makes working with SQL a lot easier when you use PL/SQL instead of some other programming language where the mapping becomes even more difficult because you are using data types which are different and there are lots of things that do not match with SQL. The second advantage of PL/SQL is that it improves performance by reducing the network traffic, and this comes in handy when you make your website or application public and when a lot of people are using it, then the traffic is well managed when you use PL/SQL along with SQL. The third advantage of using PL/SQL is increased portability. So portability because you could use PL/SQL code, the same type of code with any application of Oracle. And I'm going to perform all the practicals on PL/SQL using Oracle SQL Plus. So if you write a code, then it is portable all around all types of Oracle database applications. And this portability also helps us in better implementing SQL statements. So many times in the front end of your application, many times SQL is used along with PL/SQL. This makes your code a lot more maintainable than just writing SQL statements without using PL/SQL. PL/SQL is a block structured language. So everything is divided into blocks, and you can recognize a block by reading several keywords. So there are keywords. The first keyword that you would see in a PL/SQL block is declare. And after that, you will see begin. And then you will see exceptions. And then you will see end. So these four main keywords help you to recognize one individual PL/SQL block. Now, therefore, a PL/SQL program, you would say, is divided into three different parts. The first part is the declaration part. This is the part where you would decide and declare what types of variables you need and how many variables you need and what names you're going to give to those variables in your program. So that is what the declarative part tells you. The second part of your program is the executable part. The executable part is the part that actually executes. So this contains all your code that you are actually going to implement. So anything you put here, like branching and loops and all those things, all those constructs, and you're also going to study many more other exciting concepts in PL/SQL which are not available with normal programming languages. So all these things together, they form your executable block. And then the last block is the exception handling block. This is the block that actually works like, setting up a trap for a mouse. So if you set up a trap for a mouse, you know that you would put some cheese into that, right? And then the mouse just comes and sees the cheese and tries to get it, and then it gets trapped. So in programming languages also, it is quite common to set up such traps. And the reason for that is anytime there could be an error in the language, in any program that you write. And sometimes you cannot even predict such errors. But you do not want your program to just stop working and just crash just because there's an error. because maybe somebody tried to search something that's not available, or somebody entered wrong data. You don't want your program to just, stop and everything to just halt and come to a standstill. So what you need at that time is write down some sort of a mechanism within your program itself, so that if there are errors, your program doesn't stop, but those errors are caught, or rather trapped and handled. And this is what exception handling is all about. And that's your third block in a PL/SQL program. Out of all these three blocks, the only block that is compulsory and necessary is the executable block. So if you just, you feel that you don't really want to declare any variables, then you can skip the declaration block. And if you feel that you don't want to handle any exceptions, you don't want to trap any errors, then you can just remove the exception handling block. The only block that you require is the execution block, the block that actually is going to perform your logic. And that's the only one that's needed. Other things can be skipped. Okay, and now at this point, I'm going to take you to my laptop screen, and we are going to implement some very basic PL/SQL programs. So come and join me there. The first program that we are going to write is the classic Hello World program, which is written in practically every language that you try to learn. So that's the one that we're going to write. And I would recommend that you write your programs in any notepad text editor, and then you copy that program and paste it into SQL plus command line. The reason for this is that if you write your program directly into SQL command line and some error comes, then you will have difficulty in solving that error. You'll have to actually go to that position, and you'd have to use the up arrow key a lot of times, because this is not a 2-3 lines code. In PL/SQL, we're going to write a lot more lines. So you have to be careful, and that's why it's better to write it in Notepad. If there's an error, you can just directly solve it inside Notepad itself. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run all the programs in Oracle SQL plus command line. If you haven't installed it, I have linked down below the video required for the installation. So you can watch the installation steps there if you haven't done that already. And otherwise, if you already have it, you can start using it. There's also another option. If you don't want to install this at all, then you can use the live Oracle SQL plus command line, which is available on their website. You can just Google it and you will get it. So you can use that, where you don't have to install. You can just practice all your code and then just turn it off whenever you want. So let's start with a simple Hello World program. And in this, we are just going to create remember I told you that there is a declarative block, and there's an executable block and exceptions and all that. We're only going to write in this the executable block, because I mentioned earlier that declarative and exception blocks are not compulsory. So we're just going to write the executable block. So the PL/SQL code will begin with the keyword begin. Now all these things are again case insensitive. So if you write begin in small letters or capital letters, it won't matter, even if it is a keyword. Just like it doesn't matter in SQL if you write select in capital or small. Now, the next line is where I'm going to print my output. So I'm going to write down the function. It's a little bit larger than you might expect, a longer name. So the function is like this. dbms._output.put_line, and this is the function that we are going to use in a DBMS to print anything onto the server or anything onto the command line. So I know that this might seem a little bit not unnatural, since other programming languages have just one word functions to print. But this is the only thing. Otherwise, most of the things you'll find similar to what you have studied in other programming languages. So this is begin, and I have written my output line, and the message that I want to pass will be written in single quotes, and then always remember to end it with a semicolon. That's very important. Just like C language, you need to use a semicolon everywhere. Except, of course, in the begin word, you will not be using the semicolon. Once you're done with your executable block, you're going to write end, and after end, it is compulsory to have a semicolon again. So this is your code now. Now, if I want to run this code, what I will do is I will copy this, so Control C, and then you can go to your SQL command line, and here you can right click on the top bar and then go to edit and click on paste. And once you do that, when you press enter and do a /, it will run your code. But as of now, it's only going to say that the procedure successfully completed without any errors, but it won't display whatever you have written in this line called dbms output.put_line. Whatever you've displayed there will not be displayed unless, as soon as you start your SQL plus command line, make it a habit to use the command set server output on and semicolon. What this does is it allows the dbms output put line function to display messages and display text on the command line. So if you do this, only then you'll get the response. So once I've done it, now I can paste my code again by right clicking. And to run this code, after pressing enter, you have to do /. And now you can see here the result is printed, which is hello world. So this is getting printed because I did set server output on. So this is how you create simple programs in Notepad, and you paste them in the command line, and then you run them in Oracle SQL Plus. Now I'm going to implement the same program, just slightly differently. So in this one now, I am going to add the declare block, which allows you to declare variables with data types. And to do that, I'll just add it right here. So I'm going to do declare, and then after declare, I'm going to write down a message. So this is the name of my variable. Message is the name of my variable. And here I'm going to mention message equal to, and then in message equal to, I will mention the string that I actually want to be, which I want my message to be. And then I need to specify the data type of message, which I'm going to specify as variable character with 100 as the size. So you see the data type is just like SQL data type, and the size that you write is also very much like creating an SQL table. So it just works in the same way. So you have message variable character 100 equal to hello world, and then it is written like this. And one small change is that when you are using SQL Plus, then before equal to, you have to put these two dots. Okay, so the assignment operator, which we are used to using in other programming languages, which is just one equal to sign, here the assignment operator is colon equal to. So just remember that. A lot of people make mistakes in that itself because we are not used to this. But it's quite simple, and once you get a little bit of practice, I think it will get a lot easier. So that's how it is. That's how this thing works. And now, instead of writing hello world in the dbms output put line, which is right here, I'm going to mention the variable which I have just now written. So the variable is message. I no longer have to specify the message. I can just specify the variable. And then this is my program. So let me go ahead and run it. I will do Control C, that means copy. And then I'll open SQL plus command line. And now you can do paste. And once the pasting is done, you can press enter key and /, and you can see that once again hello world is printed just like before. The only difference is now my program contains a declare clause as well. So this is what a simple PL/SQL program looks like. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.